Recording in progress.
So, I guess we'll start with the meeting I had yesterday. I went to Hayes. I ended up talking to a lady who is politically active. She asked me to come talk. We were talking about, some of the stuff going on. It was interesting, where, I was listening to their meeting go on. They were talking about the sheriff. They were talking about school board. They were talking about, what's going on and what the problem is. And I stood up and I spoke and I got to elaborate on what's really happening, why it's happening. And really the problem is us. We're the problem because we don't understand how our system works. And now we've let it go so long that it's showing take your time whenever you get here. So apparently the dogs are excited. So hold on for a minute. So as I got to talk to them and explain to them, how the system is functioning and really what the problem is, they were kind of shocked. I got a lot of what's up, man? I'm on a Zoom meeting. You can hang out if you want. So I got a lot of wow, that makes sense, and a lot of they were asking a lot about Florida. They're under the impression that Florida is in a good position, and I had to elaborate them that Florida's in a lot of trouble, and they didn't.
Are you talking?
Huh? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Rick? Hey, Rick, can you hear me? Yes or no? Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Can you hear me now? Let me do a check on my...
Hello?
Hold on for 1 second.
Can you hear me? I can't hear you, Bob.
Oh, there's Gregory. Oh, maybe it was supposed to stop for a minute.
Hello?
Hold on.
Oh, I know what happened.
Check. My system's working. What's up, Gregory?
Okay.
Hey, Robert. What's up, guys?
Oh,
how's everyone?
Good. Rick, I think it's you, man. I think it's your signal.
I got you back on, bud.
So, hey, man. So I just started out talking. I went and spoke last night in Hayes. Walked in. It was a lot more people than I expected. There were probably 20? So there were probably 20 people there. They were really intrigued. They really thought Florida was in a good spot. I started explaining to them why Florida's not in a good spot, and the fact that Kansas still has the opportunity to fix their system if they choose to, and they take some steps. And I had to do some elaboration on really the theological ideology of the Bill of Rights coming through the Magna Carta, coming from the New Testament, is essentially what it is. And so they were pretty intrigued to hear that. They were kind of shocked when I explained to them how the common law process is supposed to work and its actual purpose, and that because they still have that court, should they get the correct judge, they will actually be able to impose their will. We had a really interesting conversation about abortion. So apparently in Kansas, and you guys know, for those of you that know me, you know I don't watch TV, so I don't really keep up on current events at all. Apparently Kansas is trying to change the state constitution to make abortion a right under the state constitution. Well, when I explained to them that abortion is actually a common law, is a right. My body, my choice comes from a common law case where a girl shot herself in the stomach, ended up inducing her own pregnancy, and then was charged with, I think, second-degree murder. Subsequently, when it went before a jury, the argument was, does she have a right to abort? And it was, yes, you have a right to abort. Your body, your choice. That's where your body, your choice comes from. Where your body, your choice set common law precedents or law precedents was the fact that she exercised the abortion. In a book called Essentials of Scalia, Justice Scalia specifically talks about Roe v. Wade is actually part of the commerce system under the Commerce Act. And that's how they're getting away with it. They're getting away with it because of us being part of the orphanage and us being processed under trust without having our actual rights released to us. Anything that we do is to benefit the state. So we are a trust commodity, and that's how they can impose specific administrative doctrine on us, because we don't have our rights, because we're still in their system, because we were basically put into orphanage by the trust system, by the Social Security system, and the certificates of birth numbers, the coding. So that's why emancipation was so important. So when I explained that to them, they were kind of mind blown. And then I told them, I said, the argument is not the right. The argument is the commerce exchange. If you set general law that blocks any business licenses from being administered for entities or clinics or whatever that exercise that practice, that's now general law in your county. Now you can ban abortion through that. Secondly, you can also set general law that if you are going to have abortion, that fetus, that residual material must be destroyed on site and confirmed. The abortion clinics are making money on the selling of the fetus to the pharmaceutical companies and whoever else. So by removing that monetary mechanism, that commerce exchange, that purchase, and removing the ability to get a business license, you essentially remove monetary based abortion in your county because you can't issue the business license for it. So and then they were like, well, but it's a right. And I said, you're absolutely correct. Under case law, it is a right. You are more than welcome to go self-abort. You are more than welcome to go do it yourself. What you're not going to do is you're not going to pay somebody in a commerce exchange to do it for you. That's not a self-right. That's giving your right to someone else to exercise your right for you. But that person has their own right.
That makes sense.
So that's the argument that's not being made. Really, it's about money. And we have the right to regulate commerce. We have the right to regulate industry. It's no different than Alabama has certain counties that are dry counties, right? They don't exchange commerce for alcohol. Where's that coming from? Well, they set a law. You have You have other states that oh, we don't sell alcohol on Sunday. Well, how are you getting that done? Because it's the actual Commerce Act that you're functioning in when you're making that exchange of service. So that's how they're getting away with it. Yes, a woman absolutely has the right to get an abortion. Go do it yourself. But you're not going to pay somebody to do it. And if that community doesn't want that practice, just like if a community doesn't want a strip club in their community, right, or a brothel in their community, then they can restrict that exercise practice. So we're making the wrong argument. We're arguing the wrong thing. And as long as they keep us arguing the wrong thing, nothing gets done. And then if you have a community that wants to provide that service, they want those clinics, they want that, well, that they can pass a law that says, or they can just let it go. That's called self-governance. That's how self-governance is supposed to work.
The government has the power to regulate commerce, not interfere with it.
But regulate means to make regular. It means to smooth the edges out of commerce so that commerce can flow. But the people have a say on a moral and ethical standard at law to reign supreme law within their community. And that has to be done at trial by jury to set general law. The people only speak in three places. They speak in the voting booth, they speak in the assembly, and they speak in the jury box. Those are the three places that the people speak. That's why juries are made up of voters, because that they're literally establishing case law precedents. So, but those cases have to come in at law. Florida, and this is what I explained to them last night, Florida appoints their magistrate judges. They are being appointed by bar associations. They're being appointed by judges that are bar judges. Okay. Well, in Kansas, they still have common law, and they still elect their magistrate judge. The magistrate judge has a secondary education. Magistrate judge in Kansas only has a high school diploma. No bar association, no law school, nothing. Secondary education only. The reason, and I explained this to him, the reason is because in 1700, primary school was up to roughly the age of accountability, 10 to 12. And then you had secondary school. Secondary school was finishing school. Secondary school is actually common law school. When you finished 12th grade or secondary school, you were supposed to basically be a common law lawyer. You were supposed to understand the moral and ethical standard of individual rights, which is common law, rights and property, individual rights and property, under the preamble, under the Bill of Rights. And you could then become a judge because you had just spent the last 4 years, and the capstone in 1700 was that you had to be able to have a public debate. You had to be able to exercise a full judicial process and practice a full case. All right. Hey, Rick, there's a lot of static, so I'm gonna mute you. All right. Is that better? I think it's better. I feel like it was going down a drain. So when I explained that to them, they were kind of shocked, and they didn't understand. They were shocked that they were like, well, this makes total sense. I'm like, yes, you still have that judge. And what you need is that judge to get out of the way. All you need the judge to do is not make any decisions. All cases that come through common law, the jury is polled for all decisions, and it's any controversy. You just need a judge to step out of the way, and all they become is the referee that runs the hearing. But the jury, the voters speak. The voters make the decision. The voters sitting in the jury box are the ones that say whether the case goes forward, the case doesn't go forward. Any controversy or any issue, that's why if you read the Florida Rules of Civil Procedure, if you go to trial by jury, it says any issue will be done by jury. Well, that's exactly what the judges in Florida are restricting. They're saying, no, I'll make the decision. I am common law. I literally sat in a courtroom and listened to a judge say, he's common law. I am common law. What? You're delusional is what you are. You're insane. So our problem is right there in that precision location at the judge. You get the judge to get out of the way, or you get a judge to get out of the way, the game's on. It's playtime. We're on the field. And we're stroking out general laws. Now, whatever that jury comes out with in that controversy, that becomes law of the land. That's territory law. That's general law. Supreme over the United States. Because the Constitution, they call it it's funny because people call it the United States Constitution. Well, it's not the United States Constitution.
Robert, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Are you recording?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I am. Yeah, tonight I am. So, the United States Constitution is not the United States Constitution. The Constitution for the United States is the American People's Constitution to birth the government called the United States. The United States doesn't exist until the American people ratified the Constitution. But that's a law process. And that's what we don't understand. They keep getting us to want to play this game, this argument about the United States Constitution, the federal Constitution, this Constitution. No. It says supreme law of the land. But who birthed it? The people birthed it. Why did they birth it? Because it says we the people. We the people means we consent to the existence and fences and boundaries of the birth child called the United States of America. Well, if you read Aristotle, of means slavery, right? So of is slavery coming from. So it is the United States of America because America is first. The American people are first. And then they birthed this child called the United States. United States of America. If the American people say no at law, or we say bad child, then United States gets back in its kennel. That's the way it's supposed to work. Well, territory law, common law, is territory law. Territory law is the American people's law. It's where we make general law. It's where we override their statutes and their acts and their bills. It's where we repeal. It's where we pardon. It's where we exercise our rights, our individual rights coming from the teachings of Jesus Christ, coming from the New Testament to the Magna Carta that evolved to the Magna Carta, right? Because between 33 AD and 1215, there really was no individual rights. 1215, the barons went to the king and said, the peasants are pissed. You're going to have a revolt. It's going to be a war. We need to do something. Let them handle themselves, and the king can have international relations. So you can look across your land, but the peasants will self-govern. Stop micromanaging them. Stop taxing them to death. Okay? You look out and deal with your crown court, the king's court over here, and then you got peasant court over here, law court, right? Law and fact. So when you says law or equity, right? So the crown court, king's court from the Magna Carta is our equity court. At law court is a fact court, because the court can't determine a fact. Only the people can determine facts in deliberation, trial by jury. So then that's 1215. Well, then what happened in 1215 is when the king agreed to the Magna Carta of 1215, Pope Innocent said no. Okay, Pope Innocent says no, and all of a sudden, the country goes into war. Fine, the peasants revolt, the crown is fighting its own people, and there's just massive bloodshed. You get civil war. Then we come up to 1224. 1224, they come back with another Magna Carta. Crown agrees. The Vatican agrees. Or the Church of England agrees. Now it was the first time that the teachings of Jesus Christ, of individual rights, of your relationship with your divine creator, and you are the temple, you are the kingdom, you are the castle, you're the church, individuality in your individual relationship with your creator has manifested itself at law, and we call that the Magna Carta. Rolling forward, we get through, right? Then we have chaos, we have the Crusades, we have all this other stuff, right? Because the Vatican's trying to hang on to control. You get to America, right? People are leaving, they're fleeing over Europe because of basically the same thing that's going on right now. And then you have America, right? Are people that they don't want to deal with anymore. They want to live the way they want. They want to believe the way they want. They want to have their own structure. Well, if you do any research on the early American colonies, they were all functioning at common law. In fact, the state of Georgia was not allowed to have a case that was not at the rules of common law. They actually had 0 equity cases. They only had common law, and they were running everything through common law. Our forefathers said, well, we can't have that because we're going to have interests that we're dealing with a republic, but we're also dealing with an amalgamation. We've got people and they actually had split the colonies up into the north, the middle, and the south. And the ideological differences between those from the north and the south was very different. But the whole problem is, when you look at it, you have to think, like I lived in Florida, right? There are laws on the books in Florida that say you cannot walk your alligator down the street on a leash. Okay? Well, there's no alligators in Kansas. Here, you would say you cannot walk your mountain lion down the street on a leash. Okay? Because there's mountain lions here. There's no mountain lions in Florida. There's panthers. Okay? That's called self-governance. That, what it does is it establishes law at the lowest level for that particular area so that they can self-govern and encapsulate themselves so that you can have peace and prosperity by self-governance. What's happened now, right? So then what happened? You've got the Constitution that's drafted, which establishes the metes and bounds of America. It's established at common law. It's established at territory law. It's ratified by the people, okay, at convention through delegatory representation at convention. And that becomes the law of the land. Well, it's called the law of the land because it's territory law. That means it's land law. That means it's common law because that's what territory law is. So from that part, now it is not the federal Constitution. It is not the United States Constitution. It is the American People's Constitution at law. And it includes courts of law and equity and admiralty and maritime. Law is the premise of territory, which is individual rights and property. The Bill of Rights, individual rights and property. Rights are property in common law. Equity is not property or getting your property back or exercising your right. Equity is damages. Equity is being harmed and being repaired or replenished or given back, right? So that's why you have to have cause. in equity court, you have to have cause. The reason you have to have cause because you have to have injury, you have to have damage, personal injury, right? These are equity concepts. At law, you have property and you have right. That's why law courts is where public officers and agents are prosecuted. That's why law courts is where you get declaratory judgments of fact, because it's a fact court. That's why the Seventh Amendment says no fact determined in trial by jury can be reviewed by any court of the United States, except at the rules of common law. No court, right? Not the people, the court. When you talk about common law, you're talking about polling the jury. Those are the voters. Those are the people. No court, the court. So a court of the United States, which means that by legislative action, they birthed the court, right? We're going to call it a district court. We're going to call it this court. We're going to call it that court. We're going to call it whatever court you want. That court, the judge made an opinion or made a decision. That does not supersede the facts that were presented in the case, because the facts can only be determined at common law. So this is where facts are. This is where opinions are. Right now, in Florida, you have no fact court. You're not even allowed to have it. They'll deny you. And you have only opinion court. So we're playing off everyone's opinions with no rocks, no anchor points. Does anybody have any questions? Good? Everybody good?
Yeah,
Bob,
I'm just absorbing.
Bob, can you hear me?
Yeah.
If you want to go into a little detail regarding what I'm looking at, you said there has to be an injury in equity court. How are they able to do what they're doing with me without any injuries?
Well, when I'm talking about there has to be an injury, there has to be an injury for you. Okay? For you to bring a petition forward, you got to have an injury. So this goes back to the whole trust system. I don't want to get into the trust and all that other stuff. When your parents told, and this is going to sound harsh, and I hope I don't offend somebody. Probably going to offend you. Sorry, it's the way it goes. When your parents told the state, we cannot take care of you. We cannot do everything for you. Now, how did they do that? They did that by applying for a social security number and applying for a certification of birth, giving you trust accounts. Okay. These accounts are life insurance policies that are in a life trust. So the state said, fine, you can't take care of your kid. Well, then we'll provide the benefits. We'll make, all right, but guess what? We will, since you're entrusting us with the benefit and the development and the raising of your child, because you applied, you asked for it, fine, we'll take your child into the orphanage. We'll plop $1 million life trust on them, and then we'll exchange that account, right? That way we can pay for all of its debts. The child can now have its debts paid for. Now we will, because you're not a bad parent, you're just poor and you can't raise your kid. So the state system, state school is going to have to raise your kid for you. So, but you turn the kid over to us. So we're going to let you play foster parent. Okay, we're gonna yeah, you're the parent. You're the legal parent because we allow you to be the legal parent. But at any point in time, if we don't like it, we'll just take him away. There's nothing you can do about it. Nothing you can do about it because you gave him to us. If you didn't want your kid, why did you give him to us?
Because they bestowed privileges on us.
Because we applied, because they coerced us. They coerced us, and they blackmailed us, and they leveraged us. That's what they did.
They lied. call it what it is.
Well, it's all a lie. Okay.
Yeah.
The big lie is not that part. The big lie is the refusal to allow you to get emancipated.
Yeah.
That's the lie. That's the big one. Because all debts must be paid. All accounts must be brought full and current. Which means if you could get emancipated, you get to claim all the trusts that they did on your behalf because you're the trust fund baby and they're the administrator of the trust. But once you're emancipated, you get all your rights. You're free.
Question.
Yes.
So the emancipation part, does it have to only be by common law?
Yes.
Only.
Yep.
Okay.
Because the only court that can determine a fact, and it will be a fact, you are actually emancipated.
So on that,
so you have to either think of yourself as in an orphanage or you got to think of yourself as an employee.
A ward of the state.
Slave. Ward of the state, orphanage, or employee. Pick one. They all mean the same thing. You are the orphan who has not reached the age of majority because you do not have an emancipation. You are still inside the orphanage. Instead of leaving the orphanage and clinging to your wife and leaving your mother and father, right? You stayed at home. You never left because you never got emancipated. You never left the system. And now you're the janitor in the building. And when you do bad things, you need to be punished because you're the infant. That's why at common law, you're not an infant until you're 21. Literally says that. Right in the heart of Blackstone, Principles of Common Law, 21 until you are no longer an infant. Upon emancipation, everybody was supposed to get emancipated. Go ahead.
And yet a 15-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old can go to the courts and ask to be emancipated from his parents, and he can have that done.
But it's not their parents. You're actually divorcing or emancipating from your legal parent who has been given the responsibility to raise you for the state because the state is providing all these services for you. They got your health department, they got your school, your state school, they got this, they got that, right? And then what they're doing is they're billing the trust system to make money off of it.
The state has parental control and they gave you custody.
Bingo. It's exactly right. 100%.
Yep.
Through the doctrine of parens patria.
Until you get emancipated. Once you get emancipated, you have to put a claim in, and then they have to give you a full ledger of all your assets.
Quick question.
And they have to turn them over to you. Yes.
Quick question. Is there a common law judge that we could send something online to?
Nope. There are no more real judges. There are no more
in 2024.
Well, that's not up to me. That'll be up to people of Kansas. And then they would have to ask me, and I would have to have a discussion and see if that's the direction that I'm gonna go.
What are you trapping yourself over there?
What do you mean?
Are you gonna trap yourself in that one-horse town?
Yeah, 1,200 people.
What? Come on.
Listen,
now.
I don't know what's going to happen, but for now, the 1,250 person one horse town that still has common law is probably one of the freest places to be in the country right now.
Well, let's keep the option of trapping you for half a decade or more off the table for now, shall we?
All right. We can do that. So, but here, you can be that. There are certain books that you have to study. I've studied those books. There are certain things that you have to understand about law. I've done that. I've done that work. I've done those things. And now it would just require a request, and then a backing, and I would have to do a healthy deliberation. And if that's what the people wanted and it was my role to participate, then I would have to look at it.
Do elections come in for that position anytime soon?
24 is there's no.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, 24 the seat's open. So
Whose
or it's
seat,
gonna be opening.
whose seat are you going to be taking?
Magistrate judge, Rooks County, Kansas.
Mhm.
So at least at this point, that has been suggested and is on the table. I don't know. That's not that again, that would have to be a formal request. It's not something I'm gonna run for. If the people in the community decide that I'm valuable enough to bestow that kind of responsibility on me, then I would deliberate it and then make that decision. But it has been suggested a couple times.
What's the length?
4 years.
Jesus, man.
So so we'd have to see, that's again, that's not me. That's a decision for the people of Rooks County. And I just got here, so I'm still trying to get my feet on the ground, get stabilized. So, but this goes back to, I can tell you this: if I were to assume that position, the common law court under the Constitution will be open in Rooks County, Kansas. Period.
You can have like the entire United States go through you. Technically, to be emancipated. Hey, go to him.
Well, you wouldn't come to me. Technically, you wouldn't come to me. You would come to the people of Rooks County.
Right.
Because I would not be allowed to make any decisions. We are operating at law, and when we're at law, I am only the referee. Therefore, I only poll the jury.
Do you know right there and then is one of your major points that you could make? Okay, you opened that up when you're like for your candidacy, for lack of a better term, right?
Yeah.
You open that up and you put it online. Okay, the ability to have people submit online to Brooks County. Do you know what kind of revenue you're going to bring in for that one horse town?
Yeah. Actually, I already worked out some of the math. You're talking about there would be a revenue stream that would be monstrous for this town, and honestly, the town needs it. So, but yeah,
which town doesn't? But that town, you could revamp it like overnight,
right?
With that revenue,
right? It would be a huge amount of revenue.
Absolutely.
Because and again, this falls under the 7th Amendment. No fact determined at trial by jury can be reviewed by any court of the United States except at the rules of the common law, which means it has to go back in front of a trial by jury. That's why that's in the 7th Amendment. That's why territory law was so important, because it superseded anything, any birth child or any parasitic doctrine that came out of the birth child in its infancy, which is the United States government. So, but you're not just talking about emancipations, you're talking about pardons. You're talking,
it's endless.
It's endless. It's endless. It is an endless stream.
It's literally endless.
Yeah.
And then you will be the spark in the middle of the country to spark all common law resurrection.
Well, my buddy Kurt's coming on. We're actually, he's my friend here in Kansas, so he's going to connect on here in a second. But that's, it is, and that's something that. What's up, Kurt?
Hey, Bob, how's it going?
We were actually talking about the judge position that is coming up after I was talking about my meeting last night over in Hayes, and Gregory here. Gregory meet Kurt. Kurt meet Gregory.
Pleasure, Kurt.
So we were talking about if it actually was right that the common law court was open, the amount of revenue that the community would be able to generate through, bringing petitions in, and the amount of people that would come to town to actually get their emancipations or whatever would actually be pretty significant.
It would dwarf every single state.
But it also would be short term because it wouldn't be long until out of the 105 counties in Kansas, you'd have 70 of them follow suit pretty quick.
Yeah, probably. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what would happen, but it would definitely be interesting.
But you would be definitely the catalyst for the
Yeah.
entire country, not only Kansas.
Yeah, it would definitely bring a second look to like, what does it really mean to be at law versus at equity, and what is really going on. I think the bigger part here and is we need to start really looking at our education system and getting our education system back to the requirement to graduate high school is that you must know law. You must know the law. You must understand the Constitution. You must understand how to apply it. We have to go back to that type of education as the requirement for everybody who graduates.
You would literally have to scrub everything Edward Mendel did and reinstitute everything that was.
Yes, that's essentially what you would have to do. But I think we're already seeing that. I think we're already seeing this observation of how poor, these ideologies have been, and that they're not working. It just doesn't work, and it's causing the degradation of our society.
You know what it is? Because people, they say that, hey, it's not going to affect me until it hits home, and then it's too late. You got to throw it in their face and get it slapped, one way, the second way, and then they know, hey, have I just been slapped? Is this like really here? Then they wake up, unfortunately.
Right. And a lot of it is we don't, and listen, I didn't put all this together. There is no one book that puts all of these pieces together. It required years of research, years of studying, years of going into courts and hearing, and finally, going into a courtroom and hearing what they say, what the words are that they say. And that is really the part that that becomes very significant. And that's the part, when they answer you, or they say, they speak, and you can get them to talk, because really the only place you can get them to talk is in the courtroom. So, but they're hiding. I mean, they're hiding everything. It's just one thing after another. So, here, hold on, I want to show some.
Well, I got another idea along with that, Bob, and it's been a topic of several people that I've been speaking to the last week or so. Is at the same time all this other's going on, I really want to advocate that we need to start community building. Now, there's different levels of community. There's local community, there's state community, and then there's global community. The global community is where we get information and resources and support from the outside, but the local and the state, that's where we get votes. And so you pick your community, you pick your jurisdiction, and we make opportunities, we find opportunities, and we start building communities by harboring goodwill here locally and moving like-minded people into the area. And then that gives us the votes locally. It gives us people to run for school board. It gives us people to put on the city council. And then at the whole time, you're building goodwill with the community so that other people will listen and say, hey, like, yeah, I want to participate in that. And we go back and you teach. We gotta. All these people have been wired to look out for themselves and just, as long as the football's on, they don't care.
Yep.
But we need to unprogram them of that. Of, hey, we got a group of people that are committed that they're gonna each give so many hours a month. We get together as a group and we go over to the disabled person's house and cut their brush. We go to the person that the city is picking on because they can barely pay their taxes, but they're sitting on the corner of a pretty valuable piece of property. And if the city just picks on them long enough, eventually they'll leave, they'll go, and then somebody and they turn a huge profit, and we go and help that person. We throw a few people at it to trim trees. We throw a few people at it to build the brush. And then, we build that, like we used to be members of the Lions Club until it folded up here. But, that's what the Lions Club did was Rotary Club did the same thing. And, and go and build that support and teach people how we should be looking after each other. There's the old veteran down the road shouldn't be eating, one of them TV dinners 7 nights a week. Get to where we're taking care of our people. That's something I'd like to see us. We figure out how to run that in parallel.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kurt. I think the biggest, so one of the things in the Federalist Papers that's prominent is so we need to get past the fact that we have a constitution. We need to get past the fact that we were given a republic. There have been many republics. Rome was a republic in its original conception. Okay, it deteriorated into the Caesars, just actually almost exactly the way we're deteriorating right now. So the one thing that is prominent, there's two prominent things to maintaining a republic. Right now, we don't have a republic. We have what would be a republic shroud oligarchy. Okay, and we can, there's debate on what year did the republic actually fall. I think it's a lot farther back than we ever thought it was. But anyways, the one thing in the Federalist Papers that was imperative was you had to have a well-educated citizenry, and you had to break as the population expanded exponentially. You had to be able to break it up into pieces that were malleable. Okay, and Kurt, I think that's exactly what you're saying. Is we not only need to community build, we need to start coming back together into neighborhoods, into parishes, and becoming politically active within our own communities, setting up resources to facilitate this, because we're going to have to move back to a self-sustaining society. You're going to have to be able to self-sustain, at least quasi self-sustain somewhat. But that means you're going to have to look out for the community so that the community can bring itself up as you're breaking into these groups that will now come together. And this is where I talk about, I use the word delegation because that's the word that they use. But really what will happen is when we part these things out and we cut the pie, and then this community is these are the boundaries for this community and this community, and then these are the elders or delegates or whatever representatives, they go to a political body and they meet and they have conversations about what are we doing, what do we want to do, how do we want to do it. And really what we're doing is we're facilitating that ideology. What'll happen is it'll start with, out here in Kansas, it can start pretty quick because we literally have towns that only have 30, 150, 100 people. You got 100 people in a town. Well, that's your parish. Boom. That's your assembly. So they can put that thing together pretty quick, where, Stockton's 1,200. All right, well, we're not going to get 1,200 together. Maybe we'll have to grid it out into, 2 different or 4 different, cross grid it, and then say, okay, Northwest Stockton, is this because it's this many people, and then we're only going to have this many people, and then you guys are going to encompass your little area, and you'll just take care of what's in your area, and then communicate back. Delegates will communicate back and forth, and you're literally creating an operational command system that pieces out the masses to be able to look out for each other, and then to be able to assist each other at a community level. And it also opens up, communications, but it starts to give this basic representation of your community and how it should function. We're going to have to go back to that model, because to have a republic, you can't have the mass model that we have now. It's just too much. It's too overwhelming. The system becomes too inundated.
I agree. And now even a community of 35, the average age of that's going to be 70.
Correct.
But if you find the right community that's got the infrastructure for 500, and we start getting the word out, there's got to be a lot of people out there that are like-minded with us, that feel, they're in their HOA, and they hate that. They hate the school that their kids are in, and
Right.
they hate every aspect of their life. When we give them an opportunity and we start bringing those people back, well, we take that town of 35, turn it into a group of 250 but 220 of those are people that are ready to do something.
Yeah, I agree. So real quick, I want to bounce back to what we were talking about in the courts. I want to share the screen real quick. So all right, did you guys see this? It's a PDF document. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So this
Yeah.
is actually the transcript that I paid for when I made my argument against the school board. All right. So, right here, the court, any action to dismiss is violation of my rights and will be appealed. I rest. That's me. The court. Okay. Any response? Mr. Dugan, this is now I want you to understand something. This is a private attorney being paid with public taxpayer funds to represent the school board. This is their representative in a trial, in a hearing. In response, Judge, not everybody under every circumstance has the ability to obtain court-based relief. Now, court-based relief, number one, I didn't ask the court for any relief. I asked the court to act as referee, and I asked the people of Sarasota County to make ruling at law. Okay? And under it certainly requires more than wickedness, slavery, and evil. And in the circumstances that exist in this case, and based upon the petitioner's specific pleadings, he is not entitled to anything other than dismissal. He has not stated a valid claim for relief. All right. Remember I said about equity, has to have relief, have to have an injury. And he asserted nothing more than unjustable political matters. And for that reason, dismissal, including prejudice, is warranted under the circumstances. And then I stood up. She said, anything further? And I stood up and I said, if you issue a dismissal, the republic has fallen, because everything that this country was built on is over. Okay. So this is an attorney for children saying that wickedness, slavery, and evil is not enough to bring a petition into the courtroom. That's literally what we're dealing with. And they'll openly say it. They don't care. They don't have to care. They literally don't have to care. Because the argument that went on between me and this judge was the fact that I requested an outlaw hearing and they were making an equity case. Give me a second. I'm sorry. Okay. So, and the whole time in this case, I kept hitting them and I kept plowing them and I kept going at them, telling them they're trying to make it equity. They're trying to make it equity. They're trying to make it equity. There's a part in here where it literally says this case must be some kind of equity. And I'm like, of course, because it all makes sense. If you don't have an injury and you don't have cause, you can't bring a case forward at equity. They are locking us into equity cases, equity courts. That's how this is running. That's what's happening. And that's the part that we missed. We missed where it says in the Constitution, at cases of law and equity. Laws are fact, determined by jury. Equities are opinion. Equity needs an injury or cause. But law cases only need a controversy and a determination of fact. Any questions? Anything? No? So, breaking this thing apart and understanding how it works is important, not just for what we're talking about with the courts, but also what Kurt's talking about. Kurt's talking about we need to get back to community building. We need to get back to putting these functional things together. So to do that, we're going to have to implement some kind of process. Well, the House of Representatives uses the Jefferson Manual for parliamentary procedure. The reason that they use the Jefferson Manual is because the Jefferson Manual gives rights to the minority, not the majority. Everybody gets a say. Okay? The reason that they have us using Robert's Rules of Order is because that is set up for hierarchy military tribunal, which means that the person that you're begging to always has the power. If you were using the Jefferson Manual, then the voting would be pulled out to the community. It wouldn't be held at the top. The school board would not be voting. The school board would be motioning and bringing up a second. And then there would be debate on the floor. And then that debate would open up. The people in the room would vote how they want things to go. So this game, it's always been the same game. The game is always the same. It's about converging power in the smallest group possible to be able to rule over everybody else. That's how this game's playing. It's always the same game. It doesn't matter what government we talk about. Doesn't matter what system we talk about. Something that we talked about last night is, and this is a theory, but it's the best theory I have right now. Religions are actually the remnant of dead governments. If you think about it, okay, we got Judaism, right? Gregory's Jewish, right? But really, that was an entire society. That was an entire governmental infrastructure system that has amalgamated into a government and their teachings. Like it's separated itself, right? Separation of church and state. You don't have that ideological, ethical standard that you had originally, right? So then let's take Rome. Well, Rome is the remnant or I'm sorry, the Vatican is the remnant of the Caesars. If you study Islam, originally, Muhammad mobilized a group, a lot of people under his teachings, under his ideology. They conquered a land, and then Muhammad established a government within that land. And then he had attempts on his life, and then he died. And when he died, that system started to disintegrate because he was the core that was holding it together. That system started to disintegrate, and then essentially we have what we call Islam now. But Islam now is all over the place. It's not that ideological, theological system that was actually created from Muhammad that established that government. If you look back, Muhammad had set up courts. He had a full government infrastructure, commerce system, education system. That's essentially what Alexander the Great did. So we're looking at, religion in its religion form is the remnant of a past government that has degraded and collapsed. Right now, America was founded on, you can call it Christianity, but really Jesus's teachings were about individual rights, individual relationship with your God, individual rights, individual ability to protect property, to put on the full armor of God, to stand fast individually. You. It's all about individuality. Well, individuality, when it comes to rights and property, is the destruction of like tyrannical ideologies. When you stop allowing people to wordsmith concepts that deprive one person of their rights while giving rights to whoever they choose, that's going to get them reelected or going to get them more power, and each person stands on their own ability to protect rights and exercise rights and property, you actually become more powerful as a people individually, because each person connects together to build the whole system together, instead of one person saying, well, this is for the public good. Well, who are you to say it's for the public good? Well, I think it's for the public good. Well, you think, oh, so it's your opinion. So you just gave us your opinion, stuffed it down our throat, and told us it's for the public good. And then you're going to guilt trip us into conforming to it. But in reality, if each person had their own rights, they could just handle their own business. And we don't need you. Go away. We'll handle our own stuff. Be gone with yourself. So this ideology, this Christian ideology, this idea of how Jesus taught and his thoughts and his expressions is all about individuality. And then each individual, all men are created equal. Well, yeah. You talk about Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass's biggest argument was stop getting in our way. Stop inhibiting us. Let us fail on our own. Let us succeed on our own. Stop trying to interfere. Just get out of the way. Well, what are we having right now? We're having judges. What are they doing? Getting in the way. Nope, you can't do that. Because if you do that, everyone's going to get to do that. Yeah, I know. Everyone's supposed to be allowed to do this. How can you say that the courts are open, and then when I bring a petition, you tell me, nope, not open for you? Because we don't think you have cause. I don't think you have cause. I don't think you have cause. And that's where we have this huge problem. But the people in this country put their faith in courts. We put more faith in the court than we did in any legislation or any ruler, any king, any executive branch. We
it wasn't really that they put the faith in it. It was that the system was set up and led the people down the path. And it's always led down the path of it's easier, it's safer, it won't cost you as much money. You know, it's always in the guise of this is really what's good for you. And the you know, and so people have got it, their faith wrapped up in that, but it was structured, built, you know, so that they would do that. But now I hate to be rude and cut you off here, Bob, but the so all this is extremely good information, and someday needs to be written up into a sermon.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. But where's the action plan out of this? What's the next step? Where's the assigned duties? Where's the you know, what's going to happen next?
Well,
Can can anybody hear me?
yeah, go ahead, Teddy.
Oh, all right. I finally got this Zoom thing to work correctly.
Yeah.
Individuality is the oneness that you have with God, right? It's the oneness.
Right.
So
But yes.
you know what I mean. And our next step is you. I've always said it. You got to become a judge. We can open up a court case and
Well,
get a jury.
there's a lot of work to do before we get to that point. I mean, that's, you know, if that happens, which we can't say whether it will or not, we're talking about, you know, a couple of years down the road. In the meantime, there are other systems that have to get up and running. And Kurt's right. What are we going to do now? So there's a couple irons in the fire. Teddy, Gregory, I'm gonna pull it out of the can so we can talk about it.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
I think we should. Well, you can't have a nation and then have emails going out and then not talk about it.
Yeah, go for it.
So me and Gregory have been working on something for, you know, we met through my TikTok, and we've been talking and we've been discussing. So you know, a lot of things that I talk about is you're either going to need a referendum or you're going to need a treaty, and you're going to have to establish some kind of nation that's recognized, or some kind of society that's at least has recognition. So Gregory and I have been working on this. He's been doing a lot. We actually have sent out proposals for to establish treaties with 3 of the tribal nations. We haven't heard back. We do know that 2 of them went in front of their tribal council. The name of the nation is the Yahweh Nation. And we are working on the constitution for that.
Yahweh.
So we are working on the constitution for that now.
That's the name of God.
Well, of course, he who does not deny my name. We're not denying it. We're singing it loud and clear. So the proposals went out. We haven't heard anything. And we are working on this. Now, this falls under international law. This falls under the law of nations. If you were to go back to the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence, it says nature's God and the laws of nature. So then the laws of nature is a book. Laws of Nations is a book written by Emmer Vattel. And that is really where this premise comes from, of nation building. So we are approaching the tribal nations. We don't know what's going to happen with that. And then as our constitution gets structured, we will be able to start bringing together this system, this process, this society. Because right now what's happened is there's so many people out there that are broken. There's so many people out there that are straight off, but they're all coming alive. And just like Kurt said, like-minded. With the technology that we have, with the systems we have set up, we have an opportunity to really bring forth a politic that could be recognized at a territory level, at a tribal level, and start to create a functioning system within that. We'll see what they do. That we're in limbo on that one.
How many tribes do you have out there in Kansas, Rob?
Kurt is really good at this stuff. He knows a lot about this.
There's the Sac, the Fox, Potawatomi, Kickapoo. And I think there's a couple of other really small minor ones right on the state border of Oklahoma. But they're
As
really
long as they're federally recognized, they're good.
Yeah.
For our purpose.
725 federally recognized tribes in the United States that are recognized by the United States government. So
all those that I named off are actual functioning reservations that are fully operational, or fully, I said that already, but they're fully recognized.
Do they have large numbers?
Prairie Band's the largest in Kansas, and it's very closely associated with Citizens Band in Oklahoma. I could have told you at one time what the numbers were, but they belong to Tribal Fire Council, I think is the name of the council they belong to, and I believe there's 23 Potawatomi organizations that belong to that.
Excellent. Think we'll have to approach them in person then.
There's a couple of other members of Bob's circle that they aren't attended here today, but all of us worked together on the Indian Reservation at one point. And I've actually had an individual at the Kickapoo Reservation speak to me that wanted at some point to kind of talk. But my connections are best at Prairie Band Potawatomi.
Guess what, Kurt? You're our inside man. You just volunteered. Thank you.
The
oh, he's listen. We're all in this together. We're in this storm together. So
absolutely. But now we have Kurt, who knows people on the inside. Hence, he's the inside guy.
Yeah,
right there. Introduction.
Well, I've been very fortunate throughout my professional career to touch a lot of people and be touched by a lot of people. It kind of sounds bad, doesn't it?
No, it sounds good. We know
as long as they're not little children, Kurt. I don't care.
Well, I worked with a bunch of them that acted like children, but that's how Bob and I, got together years ago and maintained that connection. So here's an example between all of us. It would be interesting to know how many TikTok providers or developers, or what's the word I'm looking for? Content providers, content developers. There I go. Between all of us, how many content developers do we know between, different media groups? I know several that Bob hasn't even met yet. And one of them has actually started to script several things to get people to ask questions. They're the trailer for the recruitment video of, hey, are you fed up where you're at? Are you done running the race yet? They tell you when to get on the racetrack. They tell you how long to run the racetrack. They tell you whether or not they think you did good enough or bad enough. Are you ready to get off that racetrack? And we start pulling people. And like you'd said, my current job, I have a very interesting position that I'm in right now, of being able to tell you which communities in my area, a 6-state area, I give you I got the ability to tell you what the assessment is on their infrastructure. And the community that I've specifically, it's one of about 5, but it's the best one out of those 5. The federal government has recently spent $2.2 million on infrastructure in that community. The community has the infrastructure in place for 500 people, but there's only 35 people there. Their thought was, is if they build that infrastructure, people would come back. They really needed people to come back to that area to help pay that off, but that never happened. But the water's there, the water treatment system's there, the sewer treatment system's there. And there's a couple of jobs, a couple of businesses that have the potential for a lot of jobs. And, trying to create something that gets enough mass that it starts driving itself. And there's George told me the other day what it was, Bob. There's a word, they used to call it the Amish Jewish financial model, and they don't call it that anymore. But it was the model idea. This is the Amish going back to Prussia and Ukraine financial model. But the community keeps the money. Community goes to extra effort to keep the money inside the community. It only sends the money out when it's absolutely got to, like gasoline or heating, natural gas or something. But you try to purchase inside the community or inside your community partnerships, other tribes, other areas, and you save that money internally, and then you become a powerhouse. That's why the Jewish community was so threatening in the 20s and 30s in Europe, is they built this money. That's why the Amish are threaten the states of Pennsylvania, because they've got such huge financial, but they're following that model. Well, we do the same thing. We get business, we get jobs, we get businesses, we cyclone in that income, cyclone in that so that we have power, we have the ability to reach out and pull other assets in. I have an older woman that we need to get a proposal together and go and speak with her. I really think that we probably could talk her into buying some land and putting 5 houses on it. Now she'd be a philanthropist. She's trying to do something good, but in the long run, it's all about making a little bit of money too. And I think we get some philanthropists found that are all about community building, doing the right thing, teaching people how to look after each other, teach each other how to be self-sufficient. I had a conversation with a woman last night that she had her head in the sand that there was not going to be an economic recession, there was not going to be a depression. and I said, really, I really find it hard to believe to find any 10 people that have any idea of what's really going on that tell you it's not going to happen. I think all the signs are there. And I don't know how many in this group are paramedics, Bob. How many are former paramedics?
None.
Just
me
you and I?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know Eric. So,
this time of year, one of the other guys, and it's kind of a sounding board for the group. He's a former paramedic, and he's like, what better time of year to get our message out there? Because we're looking for people who don't have a community to belong to. They live in a town of 2 million people and they have no community. They live in a town of 2 million people. They got no family. They live in a town of 2 million people. They got no one they can trust.
Is this where you are? That's what you're referring to?
No, I live in the same town as Bob.
yeah.
So what town are you referring to, if I may ask?
Katy, Texas is as an example. I mean, any of the suburbs of Houston. There's lots of examples that we could come up with, things like that, where people are living in a homeowners association that tells them what flowers to plant, when to plant the flowers, what color your front door's got to be, when you're going to mow. Your mower is too loud. Go get a newer mower.
Kurt, you just gave me a great idea. And Ra, that is going to be your road, if you want it, to that judgeship. Okay? Check this out. Everything you've just said, Kurt, again, you're our inside guy. Okay? Just reiterating. You set up with whomever you know, we get the treaty. Okay? We get the treaty with a tribe that's federally recognized, and then we have an endless supply of funds coming in to revamp. What's your town called again? I'm sorry. Stockton. And that is right there. Rob's path right there. From our own coffers of the Yahweh Nation, we literally developed Stockton from 0 to 100 of where it should be. Completely. And that is, you know, that's right there, you know, but that's all in. But you know people, you know, again, the inside guy that knows these tribes, that gets us in there, then we get the actual treaty, and then everything is like wildfire. Because once that's done, I guarantee nonstop application, like membership for, you know, people to join the Yahweh Nation. And that is an endless supply, and you could do whatever we want.
Well, now wildfire is an excellent, excellent example, because the first hint that you got a wildfire, you bring out every possible phenomenon, everything you can think of resource to put that fire out. We got to get a big enough support base that they can't snuff it out.
I think
so.
Let me
give you an example.
Oh, go ahead, Kurt.
You start all these communities are dependent on state and federal funding for different things, county, state, federal funding. As soon as they get a hint or somebody, you know, spills the beans that, hey, that's what these people are getting ready to do, X, Y, Z, they come in and they crush it. Now, there's, I don't remember the name of the religious group. There was a fundamental religious group. They're Hindus that believe in Jesus Christ. They were forming a community in Smith Center, Kansas. They came in, they were building university, they were building schools. They had in 5 years, they had projected 25,000 people to come in to a county of 5,000 people. The state did unbelievable things of, you know, background checking everybody, going through financial records. They got the cart ahead of the horse. They got to going too fast. And they didn't have the community support. The whole community kind of shunned it because they got scared of what they might become. And that goes back to my, you know, we build this to where we got a lot of good faith in the community.
I think that's the part, and what's going to be able to shield us from some of that is the treaty itself. Depending on how the treaty is negotiated and what assets and resources we establish in that fundamental process, when they come to talk to us, well, they're not talking to us. They're talking to, you know, they come to look at, well, who owns the land? Well, the land's owned by the tribe. You know, depending on how we structure this, that will absolve, because now they don't have that kind of authority over
sovereign land.
Oh yeah, sovereign land, because that land's sovereign through the reservation, through the treaty. So that is the part that's why the treaty is so important.
And furthermore,
it's not only important for us, it's important for them. You know, basically, you know, we're looking at the Native American nation as in their sovereignty, because they've never bowed to the U.S. government. They've always been a treaty. They never submitted. And not only that, they're in need too. They've been leveraged and enslaved and tortured and punished just like the rest of us. And I mean, Gregory's Israeli. You know, my family was
Mhm.
Irish, right?
And
So we
my
all have our
family is from
heritages.
Russia, from the
Right.
Ukraine.
Right. So we all have our heritages. They didn't just do it to the Native Americans. They have done this to everyone forever. And that is why it's important to make that connection between this is just evil men, evil people doing evil things. They don't care. They don't care what color you are. White, black, red, green, blue, purple. They don't care what your heritage is. They don't care how old you are. They don't care what your skin color is. They don't care if you grow beards or you don't grow beards. They don't care if you ride wagons with horse. They don't care. If they see an opportunity to consume something from you, they will absolutely exploit every option to steal it from you, to rob you of it, and to put you in bondage and slavery.
And
They're not
furthermore,
discriminating. We need to stop separating
yeah,
ourselves through the same discrimination that they don't discriminate for.
and we would be helping them for the
That's
entire
correct.
community through the Yahweh Nation.
That's correct. And there are some platforms that Gregory and I have worked on putting together as and it's alluded to in the proposal for the people who have seen the proposal. But we have to bring something to the table for them too. We, a treaty is not, hey, we want a bunch of stuff. Thanks. A treaty is we are offering a benefit. We are coming to you in beneficence. We're offering a benefit. These are the things that we're offering, and we want to align because we are all facing the same beast. And we need to start coming together because it's the only way we're going to get this system, be able to do anything functional.
In addition, we offer them complete freedom from the incorporated government because they wouldn't need their privileges. They wouldn't need their grants or any kind of federal funding. They're not dependent on it anymore.
Right. And that's a big part of
Huge.
of what's going on too. There's a big enough there's enough people that are actually factioned throughout the country that when they come together, it is a massive amount of people that can generate a huge amount of horsepower and
Robert,
force. Yeah,
how many people are in this meeting?
6.
Is my friend Joey in there?
No,
Pennsylvania?
nope, he didn't show up.
And and who's the guy with the crosses? What's his name? On his neck.
Oh, that's Gregory.
You mean the Magen David?
No. Where are you from? What are your backgrounds again? You're from the Ukraine?
My family is from Kiev, the Ukraine. I was the only one in my family born in Israel.
So you're Jewish.
Yes.
You believe in Israel?
Do I believe in Israel?
Yeah.
All right. So let's get back. Let's put it on a swing. Let's get back.
Do you believe in Israel? It's a very simple question.
Yes.
You know? Do you think the Messiah was supposed to come and make the chosen land, but the Messiah never came?
Do I believe the Messiah?
Listen,
I grew up in a
that's-
Jewish neighborhood.
Okay.
that's another conversation. Let's
It
stay on
is.
point. Let's stay on point.
Well,
So let
the Constitution is about every
Teddy.
country in the world.
Teddy.
You know?
Let's stay on point. All right.
We're
So-
here trying to find a constitution to bring it back into our lives.
Well, we're gonna have to write a
And we have
constitution.
to be honest about every country. We're all one in the sense. The 12 tribes of Israel is every human on the earth. Israel is Isis, the sun god Ra, and Elohim. It's supposed to be, and I believe that I'm an Israeli. I'm a Greek Israeli. I believe in Israel. And that's our constitution. It comes from Israel. It comes from a nation, not a race. It comes from a nation. And
So
sometimes we all have to be honest about the things that we do in life. Because to create a nation, I have to say how many mistakes. I was a drug addict. I was an alcoholic. I cheated on my wife. I did all these things. Right? I'm always going to be honest. We all have to be honest. And we all have to do deep research because sometimes, like the American Indians, the Palestinians are like American Indians, correct? It was their land. They were there. They were from Palestine. Actually, Palestine comes from the island of Crete. They were Cretans. They were Greeks, actually. And the Jews were Africans. But the Hebrews were Greeks again. I look at the word, Hebrew. Evreos. That's how we describe the Hebrews. Europeans are Evropeos. Evro or Evre from the word Evrika, which means Eureka. I have invented. It's a white race that invents. So I think we're going to have a racial war, and the Jews have to understand what race they are. Either
right, but
they
that
team up with us.
yes,
Well,
but here's the problem. The problem is that you're talking to one single person versus this is the whole ideology of the public or the masses versus the individual. So when you ask that question, you're asking that question to one individual that carries his own independent thought and idea versus whatever indoctrinated programming the masses have been given. And that is essentially the part that we have to break and say, no, you get to have your beliefs based on where you are. It has nothing to do with your skin color. It's nothing to do with your race. It has nothing to do with how you were born. It has to do with your ideology, but you have a right to exercise your rights, and you have a right to protect your property. That is individual rights. That is how our country was built. That's how it was set up. That's the part that has been taken away. They have taken away our right to be individual. And then they call it the public good. Well, we're done with the public good. I have a right to exercise my rights. If I don't like something, I can address it. That is me protecting my republic from all enemies, foreign and domestic. By seeing controversy, by seeing imperfections, and by addressing them, and by putting my finger on them and going after it, I become the steward. And if each person that can and wants to becomes a steward, we start to pull the system back into alignment. That is what they're trying to keep away from us.
Right. We want to open up everything to everyone.
Right.
But if people aren't ready or don't want to, then so be it.
Right. No one's gonna. You're done. Good for you. Catch on the flip side. But this is the direction we're headed. So we're taking the exit, going. We're going this way. Y'all want to keep going that way? Just keep on going. Have fun. We're not even gonna stop you. We're not even gonna criticize you. Have fun.
Yeah.
We're going this way.
We're basically giving these people, everybody, what these so-called, like Robert and I were discussing, what these so-called gurus, I hate that word.
Yeah.
They preach, but never deliver. Constantly, and take money from people nonstop. It's an endless rabbit hole. And here, they just do what they have to do, get emancipated into the tribe, okay? And that's it. They're good. They're sovereign. Who's not going to want that?
And that's exactly it. That's the part of the treaty that we have to negotiate. That's the part that we're going to have to put in trust, and we're going to have to establish that part. And that's what's coming. Hopefully it's coming, and we're going to offer them. Right now they've got the Native Americans have a broken education system. They're running off the federal government education system. to be enslaved and to be a subject of the system, it starts with poor education. Because a truly educated individual will not be subject. They will not allow, their mind will not allow them to become subjugated. So that's the part that we got to break. We have to start exercising. I've told a couple people, you know, one thing I said last night in the meeting is you may want to get angry, but the people that did all this are dead, number one. And number two, this is something that's not going to probably come to fruition for us. It's going to be a second generation thing. It'll be our children's, our grandchildren. Well, your guys' grandchildren, having grandchildren. So your guys' grandchildren or your great grandchildren that will reap the real rewards of what decisions are made and how we proceed forward. And we have to think about that. We may never see what actually comes of this. Jesus, well, depending on how you make the argument, in the previous flesh before resurrection, that Jesus never saw the fruits of his labor. Okay? It was the Jesus after that saw any fruits of the labor. So it's something to think about. But I think right now, Kurt's got a great question. What are we doing? What's going to happen? I think that, based on my responses last night in Hayes, which were really positive, I think I'm in the right place. I think that I came to the right place. And I think that as we start to get more in front of people, they're going to respond the way those people did last night. And it was something I said to my girlfriend is I said, what we saw is we saw hope. We saw hope in those people. There was hope. Like there is a way to do something. There is a way to get something done. There is a path. And we can go down this road. So that's what I saw last night. And I think that last night will start to germinate. And I think, Kurt and I are obviously going to get together. Gregory, we're doing our thing. I don't know. I might end up out in New York or wherever at some point. Kurt's probably going to be with us. Rick, you got to clean up, you got a mess to clean up, but hopefully you get your mess cleaned up. And Teddy, same, hey, was that his butt? So I think that's where we are. And I think that's the way to go. Kurt, you want to finish up with anything? You there? Nope. He's probably, oh, there he is.
I think honestly, Kurt hit it on the nail on the head.
Yeah.
We have to go local in your neck of the woods,
Mhm.
because we're reaching out and, we've sent out already 3 proposals, but he knows some tribes there.
There's something big about getting, and this is something that I've said, people tell me when I got on this road and started really going at it, people are like, oh, you should call this person. You should call this person. And the one thing I explained to them was, you can't call anybody. You have to be ushered in. You have to be asked to come in. So just like last night, I had a conversation with this lady who owned the antique shop in Hayes. Through that conversation, she vouched for me to come in and I got to talk. And because she vouched at that interaction, she saw something that she wanted to hear. She opened the door and brought you in. If you remember Jesus, right? You had John the Baptist, and John is baptizing people going, the guy that's coming is way better than me. I can't even buckle his shoes, but he's on his way. He's on his way, right? Getting everybody prepared, getting everybody ready for Jesus to come. Well, metaphorically, that is being being brought into the fold, not going and jumping in the fold.
Yeah.
And that is a very important thing, you know, you just have so much more credibility when you're brought in the door, you know, in an invitation. You know, some say that's why the vampire can't come across the threshold until you invite him in. Well, you know, it's the same thing. You have to be ushered
Yeah,
in.
that's not a good metaphor, bro.
Well, we'll have to talk about Dracula one day. Dracula's pretty fascinating. But it does say that you can resist evil by never allowing it to come in, by never inviting it. Don't invite evil into you.
Right.
On the flip side, you can do the same thing with good. You can resist good, or good can be invited in. And to get in front of a group, you have to be brought in. You know, that's the only place the credibility comes in. So, doing this for the last couple of years, I can tell you the responses that I get when I did stuff, or I tried to like talk to people, I tried to reach out, versus someone else, you know, bringing me in is totally 180 degrees.
Mhm.
So that is a tactic that needs to be used, and it needs to be exercised. You know, and
Question.
sometimes that comes with patience. Go ahead, Rick.
Is this you're recording this, correct?
Yes, I am.
Is this going to be made available to us that we can use this to maybe sit down with one-on-one with people we think once they hear this message might light a fire?
Yeah. I don't listen. I have nothing to hide. I don't worry about that stuff.
I know that.
So
thought
that was the intent. So
Good.
But I think, you know, this definitely, and then we've talked about a lot of significant things. I think we're gonna generate some intrigue about the Yahweh Nation and what we're doing there. That's that are gonna have people interested. So on that, I think we're good. It's been 2 hours. You know, I try to limit them to no more than 2 hours, because 2 hours is a lot. So if anybody else got anything pertinent, I say we schedule it for next week. Same time.
Yes. Same time.
5 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock
Yep.
Eastern.
Sounds good.
Robert,
Yes. I'll call you in a minute, Teddy.
all right, I'm gonna agree to disagree.
All right, buddy.
You know what I
Hey.
mean?
All right.
Call me first, Bob. Call me. I got a 45-second phone conversation with you. Call me first as soon as you hang up.
Okay. All right.
I'll wait. I got nothing else to do but wait, because I love you.
Theodore, we'll have a conversation.
Yes.
All right.
All right, guys.
You
I'm gonna
got
bow
it.
out.
Thanks, Bob.
Talk to you
All
guys
right.
later. Talk to you
Have a
next
good
week.
night, gentlemen.
See ya.
All right, good night.
You
Good
do
Take care.
Thanks.
night,
Be
everybody.
safe, everybody.
Good night, all.